The true story of The Conjuring is even creepier than the movie, guys. All right. This is a suggestion via Discord. Name of the channel is Weird History. Let's jump into it immediately.
Lots of horror films say they're based on a true story to get in an extra scare. But those claims rarely add up to anything more than a disclaimer on a movie poster. One family, however, claimed that in the 1970s, they lived the tale told in James Wan's 2013 film, The Conjuring.
This movie scared the life out of me.
Out of their beds, kissed by ghosts in the night, and preyed upon by the spirit of a witch. So, today, we're going to take a deep dive into how the true story behind The Conjuring is even creepier than the movie. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. After that, leave us a comment and let us know what other ghoulish topics you would like to hear about. Okay,
let's do it.
Time to conjure up some spooky history. In 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron, along with their 5 daughters, April, Cindy, Christine, Nancy, and Andrea, moved into their new house, located in Harrisville, Rhode Island. If you've seen The Conjuring, you already have an idea of where this is going. But the most curious thing that happened to them didn't have anything to do with ghosts. Rather, it was a piece of advice given to them by their neighbors.
Is that a real
photo? For the sake of your family, leave the lights on at night. It wasn't long after receiving that fateful piece of advice that the Perrons encountered their first paranormal entity. As with all hauntings and long-term paranormal experiences, the terrifying events of the real-life conjuring began as strange occurrences that barely registered as paranormal activity. Things moved. There were weird noises. It was nothing out of the ordinary for an old house. According to Cynthia Perron, there were a lot of small things happening that no one talked about until it was too late. Unfortunately, the serenity of a banal haunting wouldn't last for long. After moving into their dream home, the Perrons almost immediately realized that they were living with what they believed to have been an entire set of ghost roommates. At the onset of the haunting, the Perron children felt that most of the entities that walked their halls were benevolent, if not benign. The children even claimed that the initial entities occasionally acted as babysitters.
Stop playing, bro.
The ghosts would even tuck them in and kiss their foreheads. Both Cynthia and Andrea Perron remember the ghost who tucked them in. They even remember the way she smelled. According to
Guys, what is this even about?
Cynthia, when they first moved into the house, for the first 2 months, there was a ghost woman that came and kissed her every night.
Every single night?
At first, she thought it was her mother, but something was off. As her sister Andrea
Smell,
put it,
maybe?
Mom smelled like ivory soap, and this spirit smelled like flowers and fruit. After learning to live with their friendly ghosts, the Perron family made a go of it on their new farm. However, it didn't take long.
It's like, so nothing stood out to you as something that should probably make you not be here. Nothing did. We got ghosts in the house. They're walking around. They're tucking my kids in, right? They're kissing my kids on the forehead. That was just normal. That was normality to you. Right.
Long for more malevolent forces to begin creeping into their little slice of a somewhat spooky heaven. The Perron girls claim that they were attacked in the barn by unseen entities, and that on one evening, a series of voices began to speak to them about the bodies in their walls. Andrea claims that her sister Cindy climbed into bed with her one night to tell her about the harrowing news a disembodied voice had delivered. According to Cindy, the ghosts told her there are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall. While the girls were dealing with something reaching out to them from beyond the grave, a different series of events began that foreshadowed the terror to come. They claim that at 5:15 in the morning, the smell of rotting flesh would waft through the house.
How do they know the smell of rotting flesh? Your kids.
Tossing everyone out of bed one by one. Andrea claims that around this time, that the girls were visited by a male ghost that tortured them so badly that she refuses to give any concrete details. Let's just say there was a very bad male spirit in the home, with 5 little girls. Given the implication, you'd think the family would pack up and leave at that very moment, even if they didn't have anywhere else to go. But astonishingly, they decided to stick it out. While the entire Perron family had paranormal encounters throughout their time living in the house, Carolyn Perron, the matriarch of the family, seems to have been the most sensitive to the spirits inhabiting the home. In an interview with the Providence Journal,
I'm going to go ahead and forecast that she's the reason why everyone believes that all these things were happening. All right. Specifically based on what was just said here, I think most likely none of this stuff happened. But she specifically was the one that was like, look, hey, these things are happening. We're just going to live with it. It's fine. And then obviously kids and their imaginations. That's kind of where I'm at so far.
Claimed that she knew something was wrong when a woman in gray appeared next to her bed moaning, "Get out, get out. I'll drive you out with death and gloom." That's a not too subtle hint. Maybe they should take it. I would. The woman in the gray dress could have been the ghost of a woman named Bathsheba Thayer, who is the witch believed to have done most of the haunting in this case.
Bathsheba?
That being said, she could have also been a poltergeist created as a portent of things to come, or one of the many ghosts who dwelled within the home. Ghostbusters notwithstanding, this isn't exactly a science. Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter, later said, whoever the spirit was, she perceived herself to be mistress of the house, and she resented the competition my mother posed for that position. Again, you'd think the whole death and gloom thing would send the family running. But
Yeah,
like
it
a
should
good horror
have.
film, the answer would be
No, they stayed. They hung out. Okay.
The Perrons alleged that Bathsheba Thayer's attacks began as harmless poltergeist activity. They were pinched, poked, and prodded by a seemingly invisible force. But then, things escalated. The Perrons believed Thayer wanted them to leave. Pretty obvious. Remember the get out thing?
Right.
They also think Thayer tried to get what she wanted by torturing Carolyn. When
What even is that image?
physically assaulting Carolyn didn't work, the parents claimed that Thayer inhabited Carolyn's body to better horrify them. That sounds like an effective strategy. Possessing Carolyn gave Thayer the power to cause the mother and her family intense bodily harm, and it left Carolyn feeling weak and emotionally drained. One of the strangest parts of this story isn't the gray witch that haunted the family, or the broom ghost that was known to sweep up the kitchen whenever no one was around.
Hey, listen, that's a great ghost right
It's
there.
how the story came
That
to the
one.
attention of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the paranormal investigators who helped turn the Amityville haunting into a household name. Most
That's my hometown, by the way, guys. I spent a gigantic amount of time in Amityville, Long Island, New York.
the paranormal investigators who helped turn the Amityville haunting into a household name. Most accounts of the subject claim that the family reached out to the Warrens. But according to Andrea Perron, a family friend went to see the Warrens while they were giving a talk in Putnam, Connecticut. Cynthia Perron backs up this claim, saying in an interview that a family friend named Barbara went to the Warrens' lecture. To get out, the box wouldn't open. She started to panic and began pushing at the lid. She kicked and screamed, but no one heard her. Luckily, 20 minutes later, her sister Nancy came along and simply opened the box for her. Paranormal or crappy old box? We'll let you decide.
Crappy old box. Crappy old box, guys. Yeah, this is weird. Incredibly.
According to the Perron family, they're still being haunted by Bathsheba Thayer. During the filming of The Conjuring, the entire family was invited to the set. Initially, they were all going to go, but at the last minute, Carolyn got cold feet and changed her mind. She claimed that she didn't want to make the trip, but it's also not hard to imagine there was some trepidation on her part to dig up the past. Andrea Perron claims that while the family was being interviewed, a rogue wind swept them over, knocking down cameras, lights, and anything that surrounded them. Meteorology notwithstanding, they all agreed it was Bathsheba's curse.
This is them?
When they returned to their hotels that evening, the kids learned their mother had fallen and broken her hip at the exact time that the eerie wind swept over them. When the family made it to their mother's hospital room, they claimed that she sat up and said, "Bathsheba's curse. She does not want to be exposed." According to Andrea Perron, everyone who has lived in the house that we know of has experienced the haunting. Some have left screaming and running for their lives. She
Okay.
claims the man they sold it to started a restoration project, but left screaming without his car, without his tools, and without his clothing. However, according to the current
Really?
owner, Norma Sutcliffe,
Nothing's
the house
wrong.
isn't as haunted as you might have heard. Sutcliffe only claims to have seen and heard people talking in other rooms, footsteps when no one is home, and a strange blue light shooting around a room. Yeah, Norma, that's still not normal. Get
No,
out.
not really.
After
Not
The
really.
Conjuring was released, Sutcliffe became so unhappy with all the attention surrounding her home, she attempted to disprove the Perron family story.
And that's the house now?
The demonic antagonist of The Conjuring is a witch named Bathsheba Thayer, born Bathsheba Sherman. The Perron family claims the spirit of this woman haunted them for nearly a decade, possessed their mother, and even followed them onto the set of a film. But was Thayer really a witch? Or is she just the victim of bad press? The film
press.
posits that Thayer sacrificed her baby to Satan before hanging herself in order to become a malevolent spirit within the Rhode Island farmhouse.
Your baby?
However, It turns out that Bathsheba was just a normal woman who was married and had 4 children. 3 of them did die at a young age, but this was the 19th
That was
century,
normal
so
at
it
that
wasn't
time.
that unusual. In 1885,
Unfortunately.
Bathsheba passed away from a stroke and was buried next to her first husband and 3 children. Finally, one of the biggest questions most people have about the haunting of the Perron family is, why would you just not leave? I have that question. It's a reasonable
They liked
question.
it.
According to them, the answer is money. It simply wasn't financially possible for the family to leave. The haunting was happening
So you risk your kids for money?
during the end of the Nixon administration, all the way through the Carter administration. The economy was terrible, and no matter how good your friends are, no one has a room to house 5 teenage girls and their mother and father. Aside from that, Andrea Perron notes that the property value on their 200-acre farm was devaluing by the day, and the family would have been destitute if they had just walked away. In 1980, the Perron family was finally able to sell the house, and as soon as the paperwork was signed, they made a beeline for Georgia and never looked back. As to whether this is a convincing reason to stay in a house with ghosts that take control of your body and abuse your daughters, well, like with every other aspect of this story, you'll just have to decide what you believe for yourself.
All right, guys. The channel this video came from is Weird History. Intriguing. So, like, I've seen the movie. Well, we've actually started the overall Conjuring series over on the movie channel, basically. And yeah, I can definitely say this right now. The movie is frightening. I jumped numerous times in that film. It is scary. I'm not really good with scary movies. I have to convince myself that it's not happening. Basically, even though I'm seeing it happen, kind of, because of CGI and things like that, right? So initially, I thought that they were actually filming that in the real house, but based off what we're seeing here, the house looks nothing like the house that they're showing in the imagery. So I'm guessing that's the real house, and the one that they actually filmed it in, obviously, is not even a good replica because it looks nothing like it. But the story itself is absolutely frightening to even think of this here. So that's a thing. But either way, guys, all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. The fact that you just made it to the end of the video says a whole lot, actually. We have a couple other channels. MrLboyd Music, MrLboyd Movie Reacts, along with MrLboyd Discusses, where I just generally speak about the things that specifically matter to me. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.